Welcome back and hello if you are new. I hope all of you are keeping safe and sound. And I kick off the reviews of September 9th, because there's a hell of a lot of them. Now with 4 years of Wacken headline performance and a renewed sense of self, I think that Parkway Drive returned with what is their most cinematic and comprehensive record to date, in the form of Darker Still.
Darker Still!
So if you're not familiar with Parkway Drive, they are a fantastic Australian band that have released a total of 6 albums. The first 4 records were very much in the metalcore kind of vein. And then in 2015, they released the very divisive Ire, which both catapulted the band, I think, into heights that they would have never really thought they could achieve, but also ended up having a bit of ire, let's just say, from fans, right? After that, in 2018, they leapt even further up the ladder with Reverence, which brings us to 2022, where we have Darker Still. So first off, let me get this out of the way. I don't think this band are ever gonna sound like the first 4 albums ever again, right? Secondly, I think that Darker Still is the most complete and the best kind of iteration of this new Parkway Drive to date. So I'm going to talk about the concept of the album now, and bear with me because it's a little bit tricky to follow. So the record is based around a concept which is the tale of the Dark Night of the Soul. So the Dark Night of the Soul was created by a poet, St. John of the Cross, in the 16th century. And it essentially talks about the soul's journey towards the union with God. The journey is called the Dark Night, and the darkness represents essentially God, because to be able to meet him is unknowable in this time, right? The nights that the soul experiences are purgations of parts of the soul. So you have the sensory part of the soul, and then you have the spiritual part of the soul. This is then followed by illumination, and then finally union. It's very much about the experience of the soul's journey towards God. The only light really that is in this darkness is the light which is in the soul, that is somehow drawing this soul to God. So from what I can tell, I think the first section of the record is about that sense of self-reflection and starting over. Then the second part is more kind of looking into oneself and confronting what it is that we see. And then after that, which is where sort of, the illumination and the union comes into it, is understanding what it is that we are and how to kind of proceed and things like that. But I think it's a great allegory because really you can relate it to so many different things. And I think, particularly if people are going through a very difficult time, whatever the, circumstance might be, this is going to be very comforting for them. Quite a big concept, very lofty. So let's move on to the music. So I highly recommend that you guys read the lyrics to this record because there is a huge sense of catharsis. And again, it helps you understand that sense of concept that they're trying to put forward. The lyrics are slightly cheesy, not gonna lie, but I think the honesty of them really outweighs that. And once you kind of look at them, you can really see just how much catharsis was happening during the writing of this record. Now, there are definitely some musical left turns that are going to surprise many listeners, I think, on this record. There are very left field moments on here. There's the track Darker Still, which reminded me a little bit of Pat Metheny, which is a jazz guitarist, and his album Imaginary Day, but also Mark Knopfler as well. And then you've got If a God Can Bleed, and even, I think, a hint of sort of Tom Waits' gruff and really low kind of voice. But it also has a talk box in it and has this sort of psychedelic feel, so very different. I think you can tell that the band are really influenced by a lot of different music, and there's heavy metal kind of tropes on here, definitely 90s, maybe late 80s kind of heavy metal, I mean, that solo in Darker Still sort of reminds me of Nothing Else Matters, November Rain, that kind of Black Album Metallica, I guess. At its core though, I think it really sounds like Parkway Drive. Yet as much as there are moments of surprise, there's definitely moments that are gonna floor the listener with just how cinematic of a record this is. There's the whistling on Darker Still, and then this kind of oh on From the Heart of the Darkness, and a sort of weird kind of vocoder effect on Stranger, which leads up from The Land of the Lost. The double whammy of The Greatest Fear into Darker Still very much creates a set piece for the record as well. And I think that's, in the context of the album, it makes it even better. And when it comes to leads, I think Jeff Lynne's leads are more prevalent than ever before, really, on a Parkway record. They really carry each song and kind of anchor that melody and make for a real sense of quite immediate memorability. Imperial Heretic, The Greatest Fear, and the firestarter that is Ground Zero all make for epic sing-alongs.
Master of Dominion, he's a shadow on the wall.
And in this sort of new era of the band, I really do think that Darker Still is the heaviest iteration, particularly on a song called Soul Bleach. That track is just absolutely incredibly brutal. I also think that this is a heavy album through and through. It's not just kind of in a sense of sound, it's that state of mind of being very heavy emotionally. The tracks are incredibly well put together, and the dynamics shift very, very effortlessly, as we saw on the first single, Glitch, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. And obviously, you know, that's going to be a massive arena sing-along. There's always a hook or a clever repetition, you know, like on The Land of the Lost, which has got that keep digging, or Fear, Fire and Flames, I think it is. But that's on Imperial Heretic. But it's not often that I find myself sort of, you know, latching on to a record as quickly as I have. Although, to be fair, I have listened to this probably about 15 times. The riffs are, you know, big, hefty lumps that have this sort of half-time striding feel to them, and that's very much kind of where this arena that Parkway Drive are playing in are now. Glitch in particular has a huge driving force behind that, but then you've also got another heavier track, which is like Napalm, and then the first song on the album, which is Ground Zero, that really kind of like beef things up. And when it comes to Winston's voice, I think this is again his most experimental work to date. He's doing all sorts of different stuff, singing, growling, screaming, kind of lots of different ideas being thrown our way, really. And I kind of really enjoy the fact that they're experimenting even more, but it feels kind of more of a tight unit than it has been previously. Darker Still acts as this guiding light to bring Parkway Drive's soul out of this darkness. And in doing that has created a monumental cinematic record, which is by far their heaviest, most emotionally evolved and well put together record in this new era of Parkway Drive. So thank you ever so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this album review and learned a little bit more about Darker Still. The album is out September 9th via Epitaph. Please make sure to like and subscribe. I have to say it because I'm a YouTuber. And I will see you next week for another album review. Take care, my friends.